All right, ready to dive into some Italian wine with me?
Let's do it.
But hold on, we're not going for the usual suspects.
Oh,
Forget your Barolo, put Barbaresco on hold for a minute. We're going to get to know a grape that's full of surprises. Dolcetto.
and those surprises start with the name itself, Dolcetto. A little sweet, which really couldn't be further from what you actually get in the glass.
So it's a bit of a bait and switch.
Exactly.
I am always up for a good twist, especially one that involves a dry, delicious red wine.
It's a good one.
So set the scene for us. Where does this unexpectedly dry Dolcetto come from?
Picture the Piedmont region of northwest Italy, a place known for those big, powerful reds like Barolo.
Right.
You might be surprised to learn that Dolcetto actually has just as much history there in Piedmont, dating back to at least the 16th century.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking centuries of history here. What is it about Piedmont that makes Dolcetto feel so at home?
It's all about the terroir. You know, that magical combination of soil and climate that gives the wine its personality? Dolcetto thrives in Piedmont's calcareous and clay-rich soils, which, for all you flavor sleuths out there, that translates to wines with a backbone, a bit of earthiness.
Okay.
And then there's the climate, temperate continental, so you've got your warm summers and your crisp winters, which is perfect for grapes.
Got it. Got it. The more we learn about this, the more I'm starting to see why Piedmont is considered Dolcetto's home turf. But I have to ask, I read that Dolcetto's been spotted venturing out, exploring beyond Piedmont a little bit. What's the story there?
Dolcetto's a bit of an adventurer at heart. And while Piedmont will always hold a special place for this grape, it's true, Dolcetto is making a name for itself in other Italian regions, like Liguria, Lombardy, and even internationally in places like California and Oregon.
Wow, it's like Dolcetto's on a world tour, picking up new flavors along the way. Okay, before we get too far afield, let's zoom back in on Piedmont. Specifically, this place called Dogliani.
Ah,
I hear it's basically Dolcetto Central.
Dolcetto Central.
What makes Dogliani Dolcetto stand out?
Dogliani is like, the heart of Dolcetto country. What makes it special is the soil, mainly limestone and marl, which gives the wines a bolder, spicier edge. And then there's that microclimate sunny days followed by cool nights, which helps the grapes develop that lovely balance of ripeness and acidity.
So even within Piedmont, you've got all these microregions, each one kind of putting its own spin on Dolcetto. I'm really curious about this. Like, what kind of differences are we talking about in the glass when we compare, say, a Dogliani Dolcetto to one from another part of the region?
You hit the nail on the head. Take Alba, for example, another area in Piedmont known for their white truffles.
Oh, yeah.
The soils there are predominantly clay and calcareous elements and produce a Dolcetto that's less about power and more about elegance. Think like finesse over a knockout punch.
I like that. It's amazing how even subtle shifts in soil within the same region can have such a noticeable impact on the wine's character. Speaking of character, didn't I see something about Dolcetto growing in volcanic soils too? Now that sounds intense.
You're thinking of Ovada,
Go.
another fascinating corner of Piedmont.
Yeah.
With its volcanic soils and a hotter, drier climate, Ovada Dolcetto is a whole other experience. These wines have this incredible intensity and structure, often with a captivating mineral edge.
Really?
Imagine that lingering, almost salty taste on your palate.
Wow. Okay, so we've got Dogliani's boldness, Elba's elegance, and Ovada's intensity, and they're all Dolcetto.
They are.
It's like this grape has a split personality or something. But is there a typical Dolcetto style that ties them all together, or is it more of a free spirit when it comes to taste?
That's the beauty of Dolcetto. It's both a chameleon and a classic.
Okay.
While it can express itself in a range of ways, there are some common threads you'll find running through most Dolcetto.
Okay, I'm all ears. So what can we expect when we pour a glass of this intriguing Italian?
The most common style you'll encounter is Dolcetto that's meant to be enjoyed young. Picture this: vibrant cherries, juicy blackberries, a hint of raspberry, all wrapped up in a smooth, approachable package. These are your easy drinking reds, perfect for any occasion.
That sounds incredibly tempting,
It is.
especially as we head into warmer weather.
Yeah.
But what about Dolcetto that spends a little time aging?
Oh.
Does it ever mellow out and develop those more complex flavors you get with aged wines?
While most Dolcetto is enjoyed in its youth, some winemakers choose to age their wines, typically for shorter periods, in oak barrels.
Okay.
This adds another dimension to the wine's flavor profile. Think subtle spice notes, hints of tobacco, even a touch of dark chocolate emerging.
Wait, did you say chocolate notes?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued.
Yeah.
This little sweet grape is full of surprises. And speaking of surprises, the material you sent mentioned something about sparkling dolcetto and even a pasito style.
Mm-hmm.
Those sound pretty unexpected.
Yeah.
Fill us in. What's going on there?
You're right. Those are definitely less common expressions of dolcetto, but they showcase just how versatile this grape can be. Sparkling dolcetto, usually made using the Charmat method, is all about that bright, refreshing fruitiness. And pasito, well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay, you can't just drop a tantalizing detail like that and not elaborate. What is pasito and how does it apply to a red grape like dolcetto?
So pasito is an ancient Italian winemaking method where grapes are dried, usually on straw mats, which concentrates their sugars and flavors.
Oh, interesting.
It's more common with white grapes, but some adventurous producers use this technique with dolcetto, resulting in a sweeter, more intense wine. Think concentrated flavors of dried fruit, honey, and spice. Definitely a unique expression of this grape.
Wow, so we've got your classic dry dolcetto, your oak-aged versions, and then these unexpected gems like sparkling and pasito. It really does seem like dolcetto can do it all. But you know what I love most about it?
What's that?
It's incredibly food-friendly.
Absolutely. Dolcetto's bright acidity, its juicy fruit character, and generally, lighter tannins make it an excellent companion to a wide range of dishes. It's like that friend who can seamlessly blend in with any crowd.
And I bet it's the perfect match for the cuisine of its homeland, Piedmont. I'm picturing hearty pasta dishes, rich meats, maybe some of those famous truffles thrown in for good measure.
Of course, of course.
Tell me about some classic pairings that really showcase what dolcetto can do.
You're speaking my language. Dolcetto and Piedmontese cuisine are truly a match made in culinary heaven.
Yeah.
Imagine yourself sitting down to a plate of aghiolati del plin. Those are tiny pasta parcels filled with roasted meat, vegetables, and cheese, often served with a rich sauce.
Oh, wow.
Now pair that with a glass of dolcetto. The wine's acidity cuts through the richness, while its fruitiness complements the savory flavors.
Ooh, yeah.
It's a match made in culinary heaven.
You know, I've never actually had agnolotti del plan, but you're
Yeah.
making me want to book a flight to Piedmont just to try it with a glass of dolcetto.
You should.
Okay, give me another classic Piedmontese pairing that'll make our listeners drool.
All right, how about Brassato al Barolo?
Okay.
It's this incredibly tender beef dish that's braised in Barolo wine. To stand up to the richness of this dish, you need a wine with a bit more structure. And guess what?
What?
A slightly bolder dolcetto, perhaps one with a touch of oak aging, fits the bill perfectly. It's a beautiful dance between the wine's bolder side and those complex flavors in the dish.
I love how you're painting these vivid pictures with your description.
Oh, thank you.
But what about for a lighter meal? Because, you know, not every dinner is a feast of braised beef, right?
You're absolutely right. For a lighter but equally delicious option, try pairing dolcetto with vitello tonnato. It's thinly sliced veal served cold with a creamy tuna sauce.
Okay.
The dolcetto's vibrant acidity cuts through the richness of the sauce, and its fruitiness complements the delicate veal.
It sounds amazing.
It's a symphony of flavors.
Okay, you've convinced me I need to add all of these dishes to my must-try list.
It's amazing how seamlessly dolcetto complements these regional dishes. Like they were always meant to be together.
They were destined to meet. But here's the thing. Dolcetto's food pairing prowess extends far beyond the borders of Piedmont.
Oh, I'm all ears. Give me some more dolcetto pairing inspiration. What are some dishes beyond Piedmont that this versatile grape can handle?
Dolcetto's like that friend who's always up for anything, whether it's a casual weeknight dinner or something a little, more special.
You're speaking my language. I'm all about that versatility, so give it to me straight. What kind of dishes can I pair with dolcetto when I'm not cooking up a Piedmontese feast?
Well, let's start with the ultimate comfort food pizza.
Ooh, okay.
The wine's acidity cuts through the richness of the cheese and the tomato sauce, while its fruitiness just adds another layer of deliciousness. Okay, so pizza and dolcetto, that's a go. I can definitely get behind that pairing. But what about pasta? Does dolcetto work with any and all pasta dishes, or are there specific combinations that really sing?
It's true, not every wine can handle a plate of, spaghetti and meatballs.
Right.
But dolcetto, this grape can hang. You get that lovely balance again, the acidity cutting through the richness of the sauce and the fruitiness complementing those savory notes.
This is making me rethink my entire approach to pairing wine with Italian food.
I know.
I feel like I've been missing out on dolcetto's versatility. But I have to ask, what about a richer pasta dish, something like carbonara? Can dolcetto stand up to that?
Now, carbonara is where things get interesting.
Yeah.
You have that incredibly rich sauce with the eggs, the pancetta, the cheese. But trust me on this, Dolcetto's acidity can handle it. It cuts through that richness, prevents the dish from feeling too heavy, and actually brings out the nuances of the other flavors.
I never would have thought to pair carbonara with a red wine, let alone dolcetto. You're blowing my mind here. Okay, let's keep going down the pasta rabbit hole.
Okay.
What about lasagna? That's always a crowd pleaser, but it can be pretty rich, too.
You're right. Lasagna needs a wine that can hold its own. For a heartier dish like that, I'd reach for a dolcetto that's a bit more robust, maybe one that spent some time in oak. The tannins and complexity from the oak will be a perfect match for the richness of the lasagna.
Okay, so it's like dolcetto has a split personality. It can be light and playful, but it can also bring the structure when it needs to.
Exactly.
But let's move beyond pasta for a bit. What about meat? Is dolcetto a meat lover's wine?
Absolutely. Dolcetto's acidity and lighter tannins make it a fantastic choice for lighter meats, like think roasted chicken or pork loin. For example, imagine pairing it with roast chicken seasoned with just a touch of lemon and herbs. The wine's fruitiness will complement the chicken beautifully.
You had me at roast chicken. Okay, that's going on the menu this week. But what about if I'm craving something a little heartier? Can dolcetto hang with a bolder meat like lamb?
It can. For lamb, especially something like grilled lamb chops, I'd go with a dolcetto that has a little more structure, maybe one from a warmer vintage or one with a bit of age on it. And for a real treat, try dolcetto with duck. The wine's darker fruit notes, like blackberry and plum, are a beautiful match for duck, especially if it's prepared with a fruit-based sauce.
I am getting hungry just thinking about all of these pairings.
Right.
You've covered pasta, we've ventured into meat territory, but there's one more culinary companion we have to discuss. Cheese. Is dolcetto a cheese-friendly wine?
Cheese and dolcetto.
Yeah.
Now that's what I call a classic pairing.
Okay.
Dolcetto's acidity cuts through the richness of the cheese, and those fruity notes complement a wide range of flavors. For a pairing that never disappoints, try dolcetto with taleggio.
Okay.
That creamy texture and slightly pungent aroma.
Yeah.
It's a match made in heaven.
I'm always on board with a good taleggio.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm guessing dolcetto can handle more than just soft cheeses, right?
You know it. Don't be afraid to pair dolcetto with those more savory, salty, cured meats like salami and prosciutto. The wine's acidity cuts through the richness of the meat, and the fruitiness adds another layer of complexity. In fact, if you want a truly memorable pairing, try dolcetto with prosciutto di Parma.
Ooh. Oh.
That salty, nutty prosciutto with a glass of fruity, acidic dolcetto.
Yeah.
Pure magic.
Okay, you have officially convinced me that dolcetto is the Swiss Army knife of the wine world.
It is.
It's adaptable, food-friendly, and sounds absolutely delicious.
Mhm.
But with all this talk about how amazing dolcetto is right now, I have to ask, what does the future hold for this dynamic grape?
It's a great question. Like any agricultural product, dolcetto is facing its share of challenges, especially as our climate continues to change. Winemakers are constantly adapting their techniques, trying to find ways to ensure that dolcetto thrives even as the environment around it shifts.
Climate change is such a massive hurdle, not just for wine, but for so many agricultural products.
It is.
Beyond the environmental challenges, what other obstacles does dolcetto face? I mean, it's delicious, it's food-friendly, but it still feels like a bit of a hidden gem, you know?
You're right. Dolcetto definitely deserves a bigger spotlight. And that's another challenge, awareness.
Right.
In a world that's overflowing with wine choices, from well-known Italian varietals to exciting discoveries from every corner of the globe, dolcetto has to work a little harder to get noticed.
It's a competitive world out there.
Yeah.
But surely, dolcetto has some things working in its favor. What are its strengths in this battle for the world's attention?
You're right. It's not all doom and gloom for dolcetto. In fact, I think this grape has what it takes to come out on top. For one, its versatility, both in terms of wine styles and food pairings, is a huge asset. You can find a dolcetto for every palate and every occasion.
It's like dolcetto's that friend who's always up for anything. Like, dinner party, dolcetto's there. Relaxing solo with a pizza, dolcetto's your wingman.
Exactly. It's that adaptability that makes it so special. And you know what else? There's a real movement towards lighter-bodied, food-friendly wines right now, and dolcetto fits that bill perfectly.
It's true, people are moving away from those big, heavy wines and embracing wines that are a bit more approachable, more food-friendly. It's all about balance, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And that's something dolcetto embodies so well.
Yeah.
It's light enough to enjoy on its own, but has enough structure to stand up to a variety of flavors. Plus, we can't forget the affordability factor. Dolcetto offers incredible value, especially when you compare it to some of those more well-known Italian wines.
Okay, you've made Dolcetto believer out of me.
Mm.
But before we wrap up, I'm kind of curious about something. We've talked about how climate change is affecting wine production in general, but are there any specific efforts being made to safeguard Dolcetto's future to make sure this grape continues to thrive?
There are. Many winemakers in Piedmont and beyond are deeply invested in sustainable and biodynamic practices. They're experimenting with different vineyard management techniques, looking for ways to conserve water and reduce their carbon footprint.
That's great to hear, and it sounds like these winemakers are really looking ahead, thinking long term. What about innovation in the cellar? Are there any interesting experiments happening with how Dolcetto is being vinified?
You bet. While tradition is highly valued, many winemakers are also open to experimentation.
Yeah.
They're exploring things like using different types of oak for aging, experimenting with fermentation temperatures, and even revisiting ancient techniques like amphora aging to add complexity and nuance to the wines.
It's exciting to think about all the possibilities. It sounds like Dolcetto has a bright future ahead of it.
I think so too. And you know what I find fascinating? As wine drinkers become more adventurous, more open to trying new things, it creates space for grapes like Dolcetto to really shine.
It's like we're all on this journey of discovery together. The winemakers, the curious drinkers, and of course this wonderfully adaptable grape. Well, there you have it, deep divers. If you're searching for a wine that's full of surprises, endlessly food-friendly, and won't break the bank, look no further than Dolcetto. So the next time you're looking for a new wine to try, grab a bottle of Dolcetto. You might just discover your new favorite. Until next time, happy deep diving.